What's up, guys? Welcome to another trade breakdown episode. This is a big one. Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno head to the Chicago Blackhawks, and in return, the Boston Bruins get RFAs Ian Mitchell and Alec Regula. Taylor Hall was with the Boston Bruins these last couple of seasons. He saw himself playing in the top six for most of that time. And then this year, he saw himself be demoted and play more third line minutes. What do we expect from Taylor Hall? Well, according to Jay Fresh, right here, he says veteran playmaking winger who uses his speed and passing skill to create scoring chances, but isn't especially good at finishing his own opportunities. Well, he won't have to finish his opportunities as much because he will most likely be paired up with Connor Bedard, who will be drafted first overall by the Chicago Blackhawks. So he could focus on his playmaking ability and his speed and being the left winger to center Connor Bedard on the first line. And he's 31 years old. He's not that old. He has $6 million left this season and the following season after that. So he's still under contract. In terms of Nick Foligno, he was the captain of the Columbus Blue Jackets and then got traded to Toronto. Didn't really do much, was injured most of his time there. Then goes to Boston, where, he's fizzled out, unfortunately. He's been playing, more of a fourth line role. So, what to expect from Nick Foligno? He's a veteran defensive bottom six forward, had a bit of a finishing spike this year, but he belongs in a shutdown role. So, obviously, not the player he once was at 35 years old. He's a UFA, and according to some reports, they are very interested in re-signing Nick Foligno. He brings leadership, he brings experience, and having that on a team would be perfect to shelter young players like Connor Bedard and other prospects making their way up into the NHL for a roster spot, essentially. In terms of Ian Mitchell, he was acquired by Boston in one of the roughly 1,000 best hockey players in the world. So nothing to really report in terms of that. In terms of the lineup, so Taylor Hall, like I was saying before, was playing a third line role. Nick Foligno playing a fourth line role, but he was a scratch last time the Boston Bruins played in the playoffs, so he's not shown right here. But normally he's on the fourth line. The Chicago Blackhawks, as you can see, a lot of names will be gone um, or moved around essentially throughout the off season. Jonathan Taves is not expected to be back since they announced that he will not be back. So just picture Connor Bedard being at the center position there, and Tyler Johnson. Instead of Tyler Johnson, we would see a guy like Taylor Hall instead. In terms of Taylor Hall's point production, so drafted first overall in the first round by the Edmonton Oilers in 2010. Looking at his points, best season was with the New Jersey Devils in 2017-2018, where he won MVP of the NHL that year. After that, his production has dwindled down, but also he has not played a full season in many of those years after his career year. But in 2021, 2022, he had a very solid season, 61 points in 81 games this year. Not so great in terms of his production at $6 million, 36 points in 61 games. So 36 points. So that means 16 goals and 20 assists. Not too shabby for a third line player, but for a guy who was MVP a couple years back and was drafted first overall at only 31 years old. Obviously, he's taken a huge dip in terms of production. But being paired up with Connor Bedard would help his production offensively. Not only that, he played with Connor McDavid, so he's no stranger to playing with generational talents before. So that should definitely be a great pairing for both Connor Bedard and Taylor Hall. Nick Foligno, 35 years old, drafted in the first round by the Ottawa Senators, 28th overall in 2006. Just looking at his production here, he, not always, known for his offensive production, but a 30 to 40-point player in my eyes in his prime. His best season was 2014, 2015 with the Columbus Blue Jackets, 73 points. That's fantastic for him in 79 games. But as you can see, going down the years, 37 points, 51, 33, 35, 31, 16, 4, 13, 26. well, we combine the Toronto and Columbus year together because he played for both teams. So that would be a total of 20 points that season. So he's become a 20-point player at this point in time. So about 10 points off from his normal production of 30 points per season normally. Ian Mitchell, drafted in the second round, 57th overall in 2017 by the Chicago Blackhawks. 24 years old, defenseman. Played a couple of games with the Chicago Blackhawks. Um, this season, 35 games, and over the years in total, 82 games of NHL experience, totaling for 16 points. So, we'll see what they have in store in terms of him, in terms of a position in the NHL for the Boston Bruins. Alec Regula, 22 years old, drafted in the third round, 67th overall in 2018. Played a couple of games with Chicago Blackhawks, only 22 games of experience. The Chicago Blackhawks projected cap space $37 million, so they could obviously afford guys like Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno, and especially to re-sign Nick Foligno. They have a couple of UFAs that they're probably going to let walk, including Jonathan Taves. They have a couple of RFAs to sign as well, so that should be taken care of in that case. The Boston Bruins, about $4.9 million in cap space. So they get rid of Taylor Hall, who is making $6 million for the next 2 seasons. He's going to be a UFA in 2015, 2016, 31 years old. Nick Foligno is currently a UFA, but they have so many UFAs to sign. So clearing cap space does definitely make sense. There's Hathaway, Krejci, Nosek, Bertuzzi, Orlov. So those guys are all going to have to be signed. And Orlov and Bertuzzi were fantastic fits with the Boston Bruins. So I would not be surprised if this is the move that helps them re-sign guys like Orlov and Bertuzzi. But also, we are hindering on Bergeron and Krejci's decision of whether or not they're going to come back. Are they going to, and meaning like, are they going to resign? Will they announce their retirement? Are they going to sign elsewhere? We don't know what's going to go on with Bergeron and Krejci until maybe deeper into the offseason. So maybe at some point in July. So, that's basically our trade breakdown for Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno heading to um, the Chicago Blackhawks. As we're seeing right now on Twitter, Taylor Hall could be a very underrated pick for fantasy, playing alongside Connor Bedard. Um, Also, Jim Montgomery had Mitchell at NCAA Denver, so there's a connection there. So, I'd like to hear your thoughts essentially on this trade. Who won this deal, the Chicago Blackhawks or the Boston Bruins? Please make sure to write down in the comment section below. Like our video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and we cannot wait to hear the debates in the comment section. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Young Men's Podcast. Thank you so much, guys, for watching.